Welcome to PC Gaming Tech Summary. I'm your host, Gamer. And today we look at these failing AIOs again. Greg Salazar has made another video in regards to this and has been in contact with people at MSI. In fact, let's just have a look at the correspondence, or just a little bit of it, okay? Oh, Greg, I'm sorry to hear about what happened. I know it may not mean much after the fact, but I would like to make it right. I would love to send over a Mag Core Liquid 240R V2 model, which does not have the same issue. We will investigate this issue with our HQ and do our best to provide a solution to all our end users. For now, I can provide a replacement unit first. Looking forward to hearing back from you. Thank you. Well, as far as I can see, the V2s are failing as well. So what are you on about? I don't know. I will show you, okay? Reviews of the V2 and people complaining because it is failing, all right? If it says it's broken or whatever, like in that neighborhood, they're failing, okay? Just come on a year, I would imagine that several of these AIOs have only been manufactured recently. And I did notice that the old V1 240R 360R is still being sold. Why? Why is it still being sold? Not good. Not good enough. All right. I will show you these reviews in a moment. You can skip to the timestamp if you don't want to get a quick summary, because I have to assume that some of the viewers don't know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So this started with the MSI Mag Core Liquid 240R AIO CPU cooler, okay? I had it for 1 month. I saw a video that Greg Salazar did saying that he has a AIO, the 240R, which was blocked. All right, he had a viewer that had a problem. Okay, he opened it up; it was gunked up, full of deposits. Okay, and it stunk, according to Greg. All right, which would lean towards bacterial growth and possibly metallic corrosion, copper, aluminum. Those are the two metals that I know of, main ones. All right, so after owning the 240R for a month, 1 month, used it for 1 month, okay, on the 12700K, and I drained it. I took it out of the AIO. Now, I did not see any videos on how to do it, so I just made one and just was a noob and did it myself, okay? So it's by no means perfect. Well, over 2,000 people have watched that video, so that's sad that this issue is happening to so many. Okay, so took it out. It's cloudy. Okay, there's no visible deposits, sediment on the bottom, no precipitate, as we say in the chemistry biz. All right, and just cloudy, suspended solids. That's not good, but at least it's not gunking up the AIO at that stage. Okay, pH of this is 6.5. Okay, 7 is neutral. So it's slightly acidic, which is not good for copper corrosion, and you could say the bacteria like that pH, okay? So you ideally want your pH to be above 7, and lower than 8.5. It's probably better to have it around the 8 mark instead of 8.5, okay? So I took it out, I put in some fresh stuff, but within a month, clickety-clackety-clook. So those are bits of the radiator coming loose because it hasn't been cleaned out. It hasn't been polished on the inside is what I'm assuming. Okay. And according to the experts in the UK, If a radiator is not cleaned out right after manufacture, you will always have problems with that radiator. Okay, so it looks like these problems have been going on for years and years, starting with Enermax. Well, I saw that the pump is in the radiator. Appaltech, a company in China, makes these. As far as I know, they're the only company that makes it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it if other companies are making this design, okay, with the pump in the radiator. Greg showed another AIO failing, the Cougar. Had the pump, it was a 120 and it had a pump in the radiator. All right. Okay, so we got poor coolant and possibly not cleaned out radiator, okay, causing these issues. If you don't have good biocides to kill the bacteria, okay, corrosion inhibitors to inhibit the copper and aluminum corrosion, and your pH isn't right, okay, you buffer it. You buffer the solution, which basically adds a bit of chemicals in there to keep the pH within a certain range, okay? As long as you're not getting bacterial growth and corrosion, then you're all right, okay? Now, I'll say it again. With this AIO system, if you have slime, okay, which could be green, all right? Algae needs sunlight to photosynthesize, okay. But you can have green slime. This is a closed system. There's no light getting into it as far as I know, all right? So with the slime layer, you can have bacteria underneath pitting your metallic surfaces. Okay, so you can have corrosion underneath that slime, and you don't even have to have more than one type of metal, and it can happen, all right? Just a thought, okay? All right, here we've got two metals, which, yes, galvanic corrosion, yep, okay. I'm not gonna go into that today. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a look at the version 2, the V2 of the 240R and 360R MSI core liquid, okay? They have been out since the Alder Lake was introduced, okay? As far as I know, these AIOs were not brought in to fix any kind of problem regarding the workings of it, except for to work with Alder Lake, okay? Brackets or whatever. All right, so if I'm wrong, please let me know. But these came out in September. The apply for a swap did not occur until 2022. Okay? So the claim that these V2s don't have problems, well, yeah, we're going to look at that right now. Sit right back, have a cup of coffee, and we'll get into it. Okay, these reviews are from the 240R V2. Loud pump, creepy. The fans are perfect, but the pump is not good. It makes very strange and creepy tone when it needs to work a bit harder. I change places and I turn it to different ways, but still the same. I am gone. Send it back and try an NZXT for my 11700K. Bought the C240, it works very nice. Okay. Update, the first hours it worked okay, but after 2-3 days of use, again, very noisy and hot. I have i7 11700K that apparently is a strong one and needs good cooling, but still not i9. Testing bench and de-stress test with CPU Z, the core temp goes to 85 and is very noisy. It looks very nice and good quality, but the work it has to do is not very good. I don't recommend it, to be honest. I would go for Corsair or the Kraken. Okay. All right, so this was translated from German. Okay, and that is the MAG 240R V2. And you can see next to where it says verified purchase in the brown, just to the left, it gives you the model of what was bought, okay? And it was verified purchase, obviously. So the next review, fan started squeaking after a month. And this is a 3-star review. The review before was 2-star. Easy enough to install, but after a month, I could hear an annoying squeaking sound. After checking all installed fans, it was those on the MSI cooler making the noise. The case and the other 6 120mm fans are all Corsair and work perfectly. I have now replaced this cooler with a Corsair IQ H100i. If the MSI fans start to fail after only 1 month, I don't want to risk my PC overheating as the pump or the other parts of the CPU cooler also fail. Okay, from Germany, translated from Germany, 240R. Unfortunately, this AIO went down. The noise that the pump made in the radiator was unstoppable. Next, Nicholas, after a very short time, it no longer works. Okay, at first, everything worked perfectly with my Ryzen 3600. It did not go above 40 degrees C when playing AAA games. However, after 3 months, it started to fail, increasing the temperatures to 60 to 75 degrees. Right now, after 5 months of installation, it no longer works with my PC at rest. It is around 75 degrees C, and playing something that is not so demanding, it rises to 95 C. Absolute. Next. Pierre, new and yet already out of order. Purchase of the V2 model that had to solve pump problems normally. Well, no, I put it up new and the pump never worked. I had to go to a store to buy another one. MSI, no thanks. All right. So if you've got an AIO that's just sitting around and doesn't have a proper biocide to kill the bacteria, bacteria can grow inside there. And especially if the pH is not right. Oh my gosh. If corrosion is occurring, that adds energy to the bacterial growth as well. They just cycle off each other. Next, pump fail, really noisy. Okay. All right. Really like how it looks, but either it's defective or all MSI AIO, or like a lot of people have the same issue. Maybe because the pump is in the radiator, generate a very loud noise that you can hear even when you're using so I cut that one off. I apologize. Okay, if I remember, I'll come back to it at the end. All right, arrived defective version from Sarah. Okay, 2-star. Arrived defective. It made a strange noise that did not cool down. I made the return immediately. Okay, we got Marco, a lot of noise. All right, in Mexico. After 2 months of use, the pump started to make a very strange sound. Okay, we got Mike here. Don't buy. Will only last a couple of months. Spend money elsewhere. This cooler worked and I bought it from Best Buy. The pump failed and I noticed that because the fans got loud and the CPU went to 100 degrees. From Simon, all in one oven. Even worse than the V1 of it. CPU at lowest load at around 60 degrees. Under load up to 87. CPU not overclocked and AIO ideally installed. Tried several MSI products. Was not satisfied with any. So if they are all being made by Apoltech, hello. A sound of great beauty. Okay, so it looks like there is a video you can watch and listen to on the website. After a few weeks of use, a slight noise began to appear. As it increased more and more, I asked for a refund. Disappointed. Okay, Jay over here, jet plane. A few weeks after I bought the product, which is basically basic quality, it started to make an excruciating noise. No cable touches the fans. I disassembled it X times or 10 times. Even when blank, it makes a big noise. There are probably air bubbles in the cooling circuit and it crackles very loud from the first second of startup. I advise against it. Okay. So you can get a couple sounds, like I said, air bubbles and metallic. Yes. I purchased this AIO from Subpar Performance, AIO Failure, very early in its life. Okay, in December 2021, while it was working, the temps were par, slightly subpar in cooling, and i7-10700K, but I say while it was working, because this AIO has failed already 8 months into its life, turns out there are people reporting this AIO has higher than normal failure rates. I recommend choosing a different AIO, preferably from a name that's more known for their AIOs and quality. I am pretty disappointed that as big of a company as MSI would release this subpar AIO into the market. All right, next, Connor Haley, buyer beware. Beware, the cooler is awesome looking and the temps it managed were great with my measly Ryzen 5 3600, but 7 months later, my CPU idling temp jumped to 60 degrees and then 70 and then 80. Under load, it would get as high as 100. This is a product recall on this cooler for sediment buildup in the loop. Okay. Next, we go on to the 360R. Got just 2 pages of the 360 here. All right. Schneider, unbearable pump noise. Okay. Faulty pump emits a noise like a constant unbearable hiss. Too bad, because the rest is okay. Design easy to assemble and install. Okay, next we'll go down. We'll go to Blu-ray. 2 stars. Too noisy. This water cooling is too noisy to compare. Fan to fan. I am disappointed by its water cooling as much to use and modify a fan that cools at an Intel 10900K less than 70 degrees and the water cooling exceeds 90. All right, next, lackluster CPU cooler by King. Okay. We have the cooler shipped quickly and was packaged in a way to save money. I don't mind it. Less cardboard in the trash. It looks good and works out of the box. My problem is the performance of the out of the box. I can idle at about 50 degrees C. Under load, I'm pushing 95 to 96. I thought maybe I applied the thermal paste poorly, so I repeated it. Still no difference. I have a Ryzen 5 5600X, not even overclocked. The performance is lackluster for a massive 360mm radiator. The only good parts is that it's quiet, has nice RGB, but dumb pump block wire placement, and that it can usually sustain temps within upper limits. If I could do it again, I'd spend the extra money for an Arctic AIO, but I'm not gonna hassle myself. Next, AK-47, 1 star, dead on arrival. Idle temps over 60 degrees with spikes over 100. After further research, I found articles and videos showcasing the same issues. Apparently there is a recall for these, as there is residue in the coolant that is getting clogged up in the block and not allowing heat to be drawn away from the CPU adequately. Okay, it's not quite a full recall, unfortunately. But anyways, I won't go into that today. Marco, not satisfied with the surrender. Taken to cool a Ryzen 5800X, but the temperature was always too high, even in idle. Returned it, yeah. Next, 3 stars from Jay. It worked as expected for a few days after I bought it, but after a while, after installing it, it became around 50 degrees C even when idle, and it began to show 100 degrees when a little load was applied. i7, if it's up to 12700, this cooler may be okay, but it's more than that. I think you need a higher cooler. Oh, I'm not sure what that was. So I did have the 240R cooling the 12700K. Okay, when I first got it, it did a fine job with just a 240. But if you compare it to how the Corsair does, my gosh, day and night. All right, it's just that it starts failing and the temps go up. That's what the problem is. All right, the AIO, mixed feelings, 1 star. The AIO looks beautiful when working. I installed it on an MSI and 10700K. Let me start first by saying this isn't my first PC build. I've built 6 other computers between work and home, and it's not like I'm a complete noob. But alas, issues came after first boot. I spun up my PC and the AIO LEDs lit up and all 3 radiator fans were spinning. Only issue was I couldn't hear the pump. I checked my CPU temp with core temp and the temperature was 99 degrees C. After a minute of uptime, I immediately shut down my PC down and inspected the CPU AIO and cable setup. Springs were appropriately tightened, not too much, not too little. Physical contact was made and everything was wired correctly. I used a pea-sized glob of Arctic MX4 thermal compound in the center of the CPU IHS. After waiting for my CPU to cool, I did another quick spin up to check if the pump was working. Fans and spinning, but the AIO lights were now off. I still didn't hear the pump going and realized it probably did. I'm thinking I just got a bad unit. I know I didn't install it wrong. The fans were a push configuration, layered fans, radiator outside case, exhausting the air from the inside the case in my room. The pump was plugged directly into the motherboard on its own 5-volt port. I tried moving it to a different port, but it didn't work. I messed with it for quite a bit before I decided it's dead. I'm sad I have to write this review. I hardly write reviews on Amazon, but this just annoyed me because I spent over an hour getting this set up. I think I am gonna get traditional aluminum heat sinks from here on out. This PC will probably get a Noctua. Okay, we got Sergey, possibly. Bad design, 1 star. Sediment in the radiator kills this AIO. I got lucky, mine arrived already dead. I have discovered it within the return window and was able to send it back. Others were not so lucky. Tons of comments on Reddit about the AIO dying in less than a year. When I installed mine, I turned the PC on. The pump instantly started making a chirping, grinding noise like an old failing hard drive or a fan with a wire stuck in it. If you hear that noise with this unit, your pump is good as dead. I wasn't even able to install Windows. CPU temps climbed to 100 degrees C while I was in the BIOS. Brand new MSI motherboard with default settings. No overclocking here or messing with the voltages. MSI's radiator or liquid or filling technique is at fault here, and time sediment appears inside the radiator that prevents the pump from pumping the liquid, effectively leaving your CPU without any cooling. Fortunately, my unit already had that sediment in it, so I was able to get rid of it quickly. Don't purchase this AIO. Complete garbage. I could not find a single positive comment from long-term owners. And this is a verified purchase of the 360R V2. Next, Cyril. Okay, ooh. That was in French, I believe. The 360 V2, fairly rigid pipe, assembly quite simple, nice design, but not the type to criticize. But now I can't. For the RGB, impossible to have it detected by the MSI software. And this is a hiss that never stops, even with my headphones on my ears. It's just horrible. So that review is saying that it is obnoxiously loud. So there's definitely a problem with it, and that's the V2 360R. Okay, Ninu, double or nothing from France. I left about a year ago on a new computer created by myself. The basis is MSI, the quality of the motherboards and graphics no longer being proven. So it was only natural that I turned to this MSI water cooling that looks great. The product keeps its promises, efficient cooling, almost inaudible noise, RGB configurable via their program. Except that after the 2300th hour of total use, The pump started to crack at startup as well as under load, and then I noticed a significant increase in the temperature of the Proco. It reached more than 100 degrees in game 2300 hours. We are far from up to 100,000th hour touted by MSI. Looking through the comments, I also see that other users have had the same misadventure. I also specified the version 2 of this water cooling is justified only by the addition of the 1700 support of the Proco. No improvements or fixes to issues compared to the base version, so a bit light to justify a V2. In the end, I am quite mixed. This product has everything to be convincing unless you come across one that is messed up. In any case, special mention for Amazon, who gave me a full refund for this item after discussion with Darla via chat. Thanks again. All right. I am worried from Japan about the sound of the pump. Purchased with the expectation of quietness and cooling performance. It's not quiet. I'm worried about the sound of the pump that is not adjustable. The sound is higher than the sound of the fan, and it is very harsh in quiet rooms. It may be a mistake, because I haven't touched the recent simple water cooling, but I feel that spacing between the fins of the radiator is too narrow. The wind pressure of the fan is drastically reduced. It is more like hitting it and cooling it rather than passing it through the fins. It seems difficult to use either intake or exhaust. There is nothing special to mention about cooling performance. It's just a trade-off between quietness. Maybe there are people who just need to get cold anyway with this fan fully open. It's pretty noisy though. We are considering a replacement. All right. Okay, last of the 360 V2s reviewed in the United States. Okay, it broke after 5 months. Okay, here's a few other systems, a few other AIOs from MSI. We've got from Jeremy, United States, noisy pump. Okay, the marketing material sells you on the idea that having the pump integrated into the radiator makes things quieter. This is a lie. When the pump runs at 4,000 RPM, constant, and is not adjustable despite having a BWM header. The pump was very extremely high-pitched whine. The fans, they are good for the most part, but for some reason at a certain point, RPM range, they in conjunction with the pump would create a vibration that would reverberate the case. The back plate for the water block is plastic. The pump being integrated into the radiator means you are limited to where you should be mounting it. Nothing in the documentation mentions not top mounting it, but doing so means that there's very good chance your pump is going to be sucking air and could lead to noise and shorten the lifespan of the pump. This item is going back to MSI. If you read customer feedback, I wanted to like this cooler because at the price point it seemed like a good value. However, you should invest in a better balanced fans and move the pump back to the CPU block. Ultimately, I returned this for the Corsair H100i Capital X cooler, which has better fans. A pump that has 3 different settings and is overall a much quieter cooler. Okay, from Chris, 3 stars, started making a strange noise just a little over a year. This is the 280R, and the previous one was the C240. I love the look of this cooler, but now it makes a strange noise whenever I boot up my PC. After researching, it appears to be a problem with the pump. It's unfortunate that it was so short-lived, as I have mostly MSI components and haven't ever had issues with MSI products. Okay, next. 1 star. I buying one form Amazon after 3 months. It's broken and I can't give it back. I'm buying one form Amazon after 3 months. Okay. Okay, broke after 3 months is what he's saying. All right, and that was for the 280 millimeter. Okay. Next, we've got from Germany, Francesco, 1 star, attention, Misbro cooling performance. attention. When the item was first put into the operation, I was really surprised. Even when gaming, this wake was very quiet or barely audible. Well, luckily, I took a closer look and saw that it doesn't really cool the CPU well, but ensures that the temperature doesn't exceed 95 to 100 degrees. And yes, it was all set up correctly. Better keep your fingers off or constantly monitor. Next slide from Eric Cartman. This is the 280R. I really liked the design of it, played really nice with my motherboard and the RGB lights on the pump and fan plug directly to the motherboard, MSI board. Well, the pump died in less than a month. Couldn't wait on a replacement, so I went to Best Buy and bought a Corsair H115i. The Corsair is a bit more cumbersome, and as there is a separate little box that up to 6 fans and 6 RGB leads plug into power by a SATA connector and plugs directly into the USB header on the motherboard. Kind of a pain because I have a mini ITX build and space is a premium, but I made it work. Comparing the two AIOs, the Corsair radiator cores are a lot thicker. I have a feeling the Corsair will give better thermals, but the Corsair was $170 and I got the MSI on Prime Day for $70. For sure, wouldn't have bought it for full price, but Prime Day deal lured me in. It is a 360. Cooling performance good, but unfortunately after 3 months the pump makes itself very strong, loud. Let the pump run on 100% for an hour, turn on the radiator, and did nothing. In short, cooling performance really great, 26 degrees on idle, 10100K. Volume is gray due to the faulty pump and drowns out everything in the case. I probably caught a Monday product here. We'll replace the AIO and see that it looks like in the next 3 to 4 months. Well, if you'd like to see some more videos on a wide range of technology subjects, all you have to do is subscribe and get notified when those videos are ready. And thanks for joining us here on PC Gaming Tech Summary. And don't forget, you'll be seeing me in the next video.
No.